and welcome to Paranormally Speaking. How you doing, Lynda?
I'm doing okay. What about you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
feels like the week was short.
Yeah, it does actually. It's been
It
so busy. So it's crazy.
like, like it feels like we were just here. It
Yeah, it
really
does.
does.
It does. It does. It's only going to get worse because spooky season is here. So it's like run, 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 run every week, doing all kinds of events. And then, right? Yeah, it's going to go fast.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's going to go very, very quickly. I'm not people are going to, think I am. I don't know what they're going to think. But I'm not a Halloween person. I'm one of those people. Yes, we work with the paranormal, or we investigate the paranormal, and I do readings, and mediumship and stuff like that. I'm just not a Halloween. I mean, you know what? I love it for the little kids.
Yeah.
I do. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
But I've never, and of course, like, when I was younger, I would dress up and go to parties or whatever, but that was just to see, how drunk I could get or whatever. But but I was never really a Halloween person, I guess, is, you know what I mean? It's not that big of a deal. I think it's yeah, I don't know. I understand the fun and excitement behind it for sure. But I used to love going Halloweening with my two daughters, like when they were little. And we went until they were like way older. Like I think my oldest was like 12 or 13, and we were still all going, right? And my youngest was about 8 or 9 at the time. And so we would go. And then I had my son. And the little bugger hated Halloween.
No way.
He did. He hated Halloween. He wanted nothing to do with it. And
Well, it
so,
kind of
I took
ended.
him out for the first couple of years, you know what I mean? And then probably around like 5, he went, yeah, I'm just like, I just want to, like, why am I going?
Wow. That's funny.
And so it was kind of depressing because it was fun. Like I used to love, because it was also a way, you get to see your neighbors, and
Yes.
you say hi to people in your neighborhood or whatever. And yeah, he wanted nothing to do with it. And so that was and that was the end of it. Same with Santa Claus. Same with Santa Claus. Around 5 years old, he said, can we just stop this whole Santa Claus? He goes, it
Oh my
creeps me out.
gosh.
Yeah, he
No.
like literally, and he, not even because of the fact that, like nobody told him, like we kept trying to get the Santa Claus thing, just because it was fun, I guess.
Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, the thought of some old man watching me while I sleep is really freaking creepy. So we can just cut this out like right now.
Oh my God. No
And
way.
you don't even want to mention the Easter bunny, like a giant freaking rabbit jumping around the house. Like that's enough for nightmares. Or the tooth fairy, same shit. Like he was way too sensible for that crap.
Wow. Oh
So
my gosh. No
all
way.
the fun of having like that third child, and, you know what I mean? Way later, like after the kids have, like my oldest was 14 and my middle was 9 when
Yeah.
he was born. And so, we were all done, like all of the traditions and all the, and there was that little part of you that you're kind of looking forward to all of these silly things. Like I used to make little rabbit tracks in the house, for the Easter bunny, and the Santa, all of that was so much fun. And then he comes along and he's just like, none of it.
Oh
It's a
man.
good thing he's amazing, and he's a beautiful child inside and out. So yeah.
And he was the last one, right? He's the baby.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's good because if he wasn't, then it would have ruined it for the rest of
Everybody, yeah. If he had been the first one, he would have ruined it for everybody else. And
totally. Totally,
he
he
would
would
have
have
been
ruined
like,
it.
let's talk about Santa Claus. Let's just have this talk about Santa.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. Oh my God. Oh, it was the exact opposite in my house. We loved Halloween from like day one. And I love the fall. So that's my favorite time of the year. I like the crisp, I like the sweater weather. I like all of that stuff. So I always went a little ballistic and, did all the pumpkin this and the pumpkin that and decorated and did all the crafting. And so my
Mhm.
loved it. They thought it was wonderful. And I remember when I was pregnant with my second, my first was a little over a year. And I was just exhausted. And I made this big ghost and put it up in the tree outside our house. And it was really cute. And Halloween came and went. And it stayed there because I really didn't want to get on a ladder and get it out of the tree. And my husband
Yeah.
was busy and I was exhausted and all of that. So my neighbor had said to me, in November sometime, she said, "You gonna take that out of the tree? Because like Christmas is coming." So I went and I got our wreath, which was one of those, those fake wreaths. And I I got the wreath and I literally threw it on top of the head of the ghost, and it became the ghost of Christmas
It's
present.
past.
So I didn't have to decorate for Christmas. It was great,
That's awesome.
but otherwise, like I was always into it, and I loved fall and I loved Halloween because it just
Yeah.
seemed like so magical. And I have a lot of friends who are pagans and who practice,
Okay.
either witchcraft, and some of them, Wicca, and some of them are just pagans. So they celebrate Samhain and it's all magical. And then we go over there and have rituals and write intentions on paper and have little bonfires. So it got really interesting and magical, and the kids really loved it. And they still love it. Like now, they're all
Good.
excited
Yeah.
for Halloween.
That's so good.
Yeah,
That's so
I'm
good.
glad.
Well, so this show is going to be fun, I think. And we did get some questions from our viewers and stuff like that. And if anybody who's watching has a question, as I say, bring them on, put them in the comments. We're ready for you. We
Bring
will
it.
take your question. Bring it on. We are happy to answer them. We will do our best to answer.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
as long as they're not,
Too hard. We don't want anything too hard.
Yeah, I know you have some too that you were able to grab from
I,
the
I do.
comments and stuff like that, right?
I
So,
do.
do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Well, I was going to say, why don't you start off? Because I'm sure you've got a bunch of them too.
I have a couple. So, okay, so I'm just trying to decide. Well, you know what? Here's one. So we were just talking about family. Let's start with that.
Yes.
So this one is kind of interesting. How did you meet your spouse, and did they know about the paranormal when you met them, that you were doing, like you were investigating, or were you investigating when you met them?
Ooh. Okay, go for it. Answer that, Kathy.
So I'm not married,
Yes,
so that's
true.
easy. I don't have a
True.
spouse and I don't
True.
have a partner.
True.
But when I first started investigating, I think that people were, for the most part, pretty good. Like it's not so much like the spouse or whatever like that, but we had already been dealing with a lot of paranormal issues in my own house prior, to me becoming an investigator, which is what we got me into investigating. So I think to some degree, it was sort of a natural progression. A lot of people kind of just went, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like anyone was, extremely surprised, nor did they think that I was completely out of my mind. Because with my ex-husband, for instance, he had seen quite a lot of the paranormal that we had dealt with,
Okay.
right? And we weren't particularly together at that time, or we were going, you know what I mean? But there was a lot of things that, I had experienced and he had actually experienced quite a lot too.
Right.
But we didn't really connect on the conversation of it. So he was having his own experiences that he couldn't explain, and I was having my experiences. And it wasn't until we actually ended up talking about, different things that we realized, shit, there's something going on here.
Wow. That's cool.
So it was kind of yeah, it is. It's kind of cool. And so yeah, it was kind of wild. And actually it was interesting because it was in a whole different home that we actually had started talking about. Like it was in the first home that we had owned together, and we owned a few homes together, but it was in the first one. And and actually when we first met, he actually was my roommate first.
No way.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. So we actually met in school. We were both going to college and taking different courses. But this is back when I used to smoke and he used to smoke, and we used to go outside. Like, there was always a big group of us between classes and we just started chatting. And then one day he mentioned he needed a roommate. And I was like, well, yeah, I actually need a roommate. So, so that actually worked out well. But and we didn't actually like end up together for at least about a year. Like we were just roommates for about a year. But he was having experiences in his room that I had no idea that he was having.
Really? Like what?
Yeah. He was having a lot of nightmares. He always felt like somebody was watching him. He said that he would hear footsteps in his room quite often. Okay. And from what I remember, like most of it was limited to, his room, but there was times where he was downstairs and I would be out and he would think that I was home because it almost, how when you feel somebody around in the home?
Yes.
It's like you could swear to God that somebody's home because of that energy. But the funny thing is I was getting nothing, like nothing at all. Like I was never thought about it. But I was also very busy.
True.
I was in school. I had a really heavy workload. When he moved in, my daughter was still I think she was only like 10 months when he moved in. So I had I was very, very like, I didn't have a lot of time to think about that kind of shit or any shit really. You know what I mean?
Oh.
But yeah. And then it wasn't until we were actually together. So it was at least a year later.
Right.
And we were talking to friends and he brought it up that in the room that he used to have, or like, and he was saying like, I used to have, and I was like, why didn't you say anything? And he was like, well, I don't know, because I thought you would think I was nuts.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. And then when we moved into another house, we actually started when we bought another place, when we were renovating that one, we used to have a lot of activity going on at the same time, and both of us didn't really talk about it. We more or less ignored it.
Oh. Okay.
And then when he moved out, like when about 5 years later, like this was throughout 5 years, like there would be little things that, you know what I mean? Like, but then when we decided to get divorced, that's when the activity really kicked up for me.
Really?
And then and those are the experiences that, that I've talked about before, but yeah, up until that point, like we were both having these experiences, but never really, we never really sat down and said, well, we wonder what it is. You know what I mean? It was more or less like, yeah, it was really weird. Yeah. I remember one time we were painting a bedroom. This is before we moved into the new house. And we still had our old house, like we, you know what I mean? But so we would go to the new house and we were, renovating and doing the things until the other house sold and all of that other stuff. Right. And we were in one of the bedrooms, we were painting the wall, painting the room. And the girls were sitting like kind of by the threshold of the door, and they just sort of sat there and watched us and, whatever. And we were just about finished, but we had a boom box or whatever the hell, a stereo in one of the other bedrooms that was playing lightly, like, music. And we were just about done. And all of a sudden the music stopped and we never really thought anything of it. I was aware that the music had stopped,
Yeah.
but I wasn't really paying attention to the fact that the music had stopped. And both, like I said, both of the girls are sort of sitting at the threshold of the door. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to go unplug everything before we go, because obviously no one was staying in the house. Like, we don't want to leave everything plugged in, right?
Yes.
So I'd go around and unplug everything. I walked into that room and there was the cord on top of the stereo. It wasn't just pulled out of the thing. It was literally on top of the stereo, like somebody had draped the cord on top of the stereo. And I walked into the bedroom where he was, like wrapping up the painting. And I said, did you, I said, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but I was like, so I went into the room and the cord, and he goes, I swear to God, if you tell me it was unplugged, we're not moving in. And I just turned around and walked out.
Oh my God. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, he
You
was
moved in anyway.
We did, yeah. But I mean, that house ended up turning into, and I've talked about it in other shows, and it was pretty, pretty scary. We'll get into it another time, but it's actually, it was kind of like, we jokingly call it the Barbie doll house,
I was going to say, is that the Barbie house?
It is. Yeah, that was the Barbie doll house. And, we should have clued in then. Right? You should have clued in then, but we didn't. So live and learn.
Oh my God.
Live and learn.
Funny.
But how about you? So your turn. So
God.
Did your husband know that you were into the paranormal? How did you guys meet? And did he know that you were in the paranormal?
Well, we met at McGill University in 1984. And it was really kind of weird because we both took a course that we didn't want to take, which was literature of the Romantic period, which I thought was hilarious. Because he didn't want to take it and I didn't want to take it, but it was one of those classes that was the only one available in that time slot. So we were both in English literature, majoring in English literature. So I used to sit at the front of the class. He used to sit at the back of the class reading a newspaper throughout the whole class. Anyway, and I was with somebody else at the time. But he kind of kept moving forward in the class and eventually ended up sitting next to me and wanted to borrow my notes and was obviously attracted to me. And I was with somebody else. And then, of course, we became friends, just friends, and we'd go out for coffee. And he was a disc jockey at Radio McGill. So every once in a while, I'd drop in and say hello and did a couple of PSAs on air. But the weirdest thing is we were friends. And then I broke up with my significant other, and he was my friend. And then we became more than friends. But I think when we first met and started having coffee, he asked me what my hobbies were and some of the things that I did for fun. And I do remember he was always kept in the loop. And I did tell him very early on that this is what I did. And at the time, I mean, I don't know how old I was, but I'd only been doing actual investigations for probably about 3 or 4 years. So it was kind of new at the time, but
nobody heard of it at that.
No.
That's really brave, actually, because, in that time period, really, I mean, it wasn't until about the mid 2000s when it started becoming like a popular thing, because of TV and movies and all of that stuff, right? It wasn't a well-known thing.
Not at all. But I was of the opinion, because I've always been kind of let's just lay it on the line kind of person. So I didn't want anybody that I was friends with to be kept in the dark about the things that I did. I mean, if I'm friends with somebody, I tell them this is who I am, right? So he was no different. So I did tell him. He did not ridicule me. He didn't, drop me like a hot potato, obviously, because we've been married now for 39 years. But
Yeah.
but yeah, he was really open to everything. And he did tell me about some of his rather nebulous experiences. Like he had a UFO experience when he was visiting his aunt in northern Quebec. So he told me about that. I remember that. And yeah, so we would have really long, drawn out conversations. And he did not ridicule me. He didn't belittle me. He didn't call me names or laugh at me. So, I figured he was a keeper.
No kidding.
He was a keeper. Yeah.
So just out of my own curiosity, has he ever investigated with you? Has he ever gone on an investigation with you or anything like that?
No, as a matter of fact, he sort of has his interests. I have mine. And I think that's why we've been together for so long. Because, even though we have very similar interests, we both love books. And we really love literature. We love to talk about books or certain things that we love to watch on television and movies and things like that.
For sure.
But he really has a lot of interests that, I'm interested in, but I would never do. And I do too. So he likes the stuff that I do, but he's not really interested in getting involved to this degree, right? But he's interested. When I go on investigations and I come home, he'll say, "So,
how'd it go?" Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, I appreciate that because I think that's truly why we've stayed together for this long, because, we come together, but we have separate interests, and we have interest in each other's separate interests. But, he keeps on his side of the playground and I keep on mine.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I totally was, fully transparent with him from day one. So
that's good. That's good. Yeah. I like that. So your turn. Your turn.
Oh.
You have.
Okay.
And remember, anybody watching, if you guys have a question, by all means, throw it into the chat. So.
And even, even in the comments, if you don't catch this live and you're watching it on the replay and you've got questions, please throw them in the comments.
Yeah.
And then when we do another show like this, we'll keep them and we'll answer them.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's see. I've got a bunch of them. Okay. This is a good one. And you know what? You would have a lot to say about this one.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, seriously. No, this is a good question. Can anyone become intuitive, or are you born that way?
Ooh, I do like that. Okay. So, yeah. So, here's the thing. We're all born with talents. Right. And I mean, there's people that are hockey players. There's people that can play piano. There's people that can tap dance. There's people that are great mechanics, or maybe we have 2, 3, 4 different abilities that we have. Yeah. One of them that we are born with, that everybody is born with, is intuition. Everybody is born with a sense of intuition.
Yes.
And, when we are children, we are usually very highly attuned to our intuition. And then through whatever constructs that we have around us, whether it be parental, maybe it's, our schooling, how we're raised, whatever it is, our own prejudice against it. Like there can be, I don't want to blame it all on the parents. I don't want to blame it all on society, because even within ourselves, sometimes we're scared of it, or maybe we just have, misconceptions or whatever. We tend to lose some of that intuition. We tend to lose some of those abilities to see beyond the veil.
Yes.
And then there's people that, so I feel like it's like this. Anybody, as long as you have 2 legs and you can actually walk, or you have the ability to put on a pair of skates and skate around. Okay. This is not saying everybody can, because there's obviously people that don't have the ability to walk far, or are in wheelchairs, or, have walking issues. Right. But, if you have anybody can put on a pair of skates, anybody, in quotations. Okay. Let's clear that up so I don't get anybody jabbing at me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you're a good hockey player. It doesn't mean that you have the ability to see where that puck is going to go. It doesn't mean you have the ability to skate fast. It doesn't mean, it means that you can do this. But the thing is that even the hockey players that are playing professionally, they don't just get up one day and start skating and go, oh, hey, I'm going to be a professional. They practice, they practice, they practice, they practice, they practice more, and then they practice.
True.
And they dedicate themselves, and they practice some more, and then they practice more. The same with the gymnast, right? Anybody can probably do a cartwheel, but there's a big difference between a cartwheel and being an actual gymnast, right? Especially like an Olympic.
Yes.
And why? How did they get there? They practice, they practice, they practice, they practice, they hone in, they tune in. They listen to their body, they listen to their coaches, they listen to their mentors, they listen to, for me, my mentors are spirit, God, my guides, my angels. I got a whole fucking team going on.
Surrounded by them.
I just don't have to pay them on a weekly salary or a monthly salary.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
But I pay them in other ways. You know what I mean? But I'm grateful and I have gratitude for that. Right.
Yes. Yes.
And the thing is that what we have to remember, and I think that this is the biggest thing, is we are only a channel. I'm only a channel.
Yeah.
So I can be praised, I guess, if you want to praise it in that, if you want to put it in that sense, only for the fact that I might have developed a stronger listening ability than maybe perhaps another person that hasn't worked or practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and listened and listened and listened and practiced. Right?
Yep.
So I might be a little bit more in tune, or a lot more in tune than that person who isn't doing that.
Makes sense.
So, we always hear things about like, oh, this person is like the best psychic in the world and da da da, and this person is like that. But I always look at it as like we are just a channel.
Mm-hmm.
They might be a really good channel. Good for them.
Yeah.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But there has to be humility, and there has to be gratitude, and there has to be, a sense of humbleness behind it as well. Because that's where it's coming from. For me, anyway, on a personal level, it's coming from spirit. I am the vessel.
Yeah.
And that's it. Just a vessel.
Yeah. I like that answer.
What's that?
I like that answer.
Thank you. Yeah. But it's true, right?
Yeah.
It's true. But like the thing is that we have to remember that, and the thing is one of the things that I really feel extremely, extremely strong on. There's a lot of people that have the ability.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking to humans and people that have emotions, and they have a sense of like a sense of self, they're people, they they hurt, they cry, they laugh, these are humans that we're dealing with.
Yes.
I do not have the fucking right to interfere, excuse my language, but to interfere with that human process, I guess is the best way to say it. And this is where, there are a lot of people that are, scam artists. There's a lot of people that basically say, look, I'm right and you're wrong, and that's the end of it. We don't know. I don't know. I mean, I only get glimpses of what's on the other side, but I don't know for sure. Nobody knows for sure unless you've been over there,
Yeah.
And there's only one person that's ever done that, and that was like over 2,000 years ago.
Yep. Nope, you're right. What I think,
Right?
yeah, well, what I think is interesting is that when you tell people what you just said about how, we're all sort of born with this intuitive sense when we're young,
Yeah.
um, people will tell you, oh, yeah, no, no, immediately. Oh, no, I was never intuitive. And it's funny how they'll kind of say, oh, yeah, well, how do you know that? That's not true. I was never intuitive. When I was a kid, I mean, I didn't know about any of this stuff. Like they absolutely
We'll
will
fight you
fight
on it.
you on that. Yeah, they'll fight you on that. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. But I mean, we all know that when you're little, I mean, you have a sense of, when you're tired, when you're hungry, and you have this sense to say, I'm tired and I'm hungry and I don't want that and that doesn't feel good. But then as we get older, well, you know yourself, I'll be driving somewhere and my stomach will be growling because I'm hungry and I'll tell myself, no, I'm not hungry. I just ate an hour ago. Like I push it down. I push it down. But when you're a
Right. Yeah.
kid, you don't do that when you're a kid. You're so in tune with how you're feeling and what you're sensing. So
Unless your environment is toxic. And
true.
so,
Yes.
because and this is where they're coming from. It's hard to say, but
Yeah.
if you are born or being raised in an environmental toxic energy,
Yes.
then you're going to push down, like you were saying about being hungry. If a child isn't being fed, they're going to push down their hunger, and they're not going to start listening to their body in that sense. The same as being tired, the same as being wet or needing changing or dirty or messy or whatever. They're going to lose a lot of those abilities because they're it's not so much that they're not intuitive or they're not listening to themselves, but they're being forced
It's like
to go against the grain. Yeah,
yeah.
right. They're
Yeah.
they're being forced to not listen to their inner self.
Well, and how many kids when they're really little, thankfully not me, because my parents were really open, but how many
Yeah,
kids when they're little, when they have experiences, or they think they hear voices, or they think they see things, and they
yeah,
tell their parents go, there's no such thing as ghosts, or no, it's just your imagination.
yeah.
And then, of course, they push it down and push it down. So, yeah, but I do believe we're all born with
Mhm.
that innate sense of
I truly believe that too. I really do, and I mean, that I come from, a more Christian background, you know what I mean? And that's where you know, I tend to go all the time. And, when I hear people that are like, I don't know, they tend to not have a faith. And it doesn't need to be faith like my faith. Have
right.
a faith. Have a faith in something. Because when we have a faith in something, it opens up our intuition.
True. I think so.
Yeah.
I think
And it's not my business to tell you what that faith is. I don't care, but have a faith in something, even if it's faith in yourself. And quite honestly, I mean, to some degree, that is what spirit is about, right? Having faith in ourselves, having faith in above, having faith in, the messages that are coming through and just listening to those. And so I truly do believe that everybody is intuitive. It's just some people have learned, I guess, to maybe open the channel or maybe listen a little. But again, I don't feel like it's any different than somebody who plays the piano or has an amazing gift for singing or can play hockey or can build a chair or can build a home or can, is a mechanical genius or, yeah, or it doesn't even need to be a genius. They know how to start a car.
no, it's true. But it's
Right?
funny, it is funny, when you talk about that because, um, as a person who plays the piano and who has taught the piano, there are certain people who have this gift. It's a natural ability,
Yes, absolutely.
to be able to sit down and bring something to that experience and to almost make that musical instrument alive. And it's just the most incredible thing. And then there are other people who try so, so hard and who study all the time, right? Study, study, study. And it's still never, right? And it just doesn't sound the same. And the two pieces of music, I mean, it's they play it perfectly. But
Lynda, I'll tell you something. I am the most tone deaf human. Like honestly, and like I took years of like piano, and I can belt out Home on the Range or something like that.
right.
But I don't have I'm not in tune. So
Right.
you show me the notes and I'm playing the notes. That's it.
Exactly.
But there's no, it doesn't have that same ability as somebody who has the same sound as somebody who has that natural ability,
Exactly.
right? Because I'm just playing the notes. And quite honestly, saying that, that's very much okay. Since COVID, there are a million freaking TikTok people who are holding up cards going, da, 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 da. And you're like, okay, but this is not you do not ever compare yourself to what it is that I do, because
Right.
what I do I practiced, I tuned in, I meditated, you know what I mean? I did everything that I could in order to deliver a message to somebody that is going to be for them,
Yes.
but also truly coming from spirit.
Yes.
And all of that, right? And it's so funny, I'll watch some of these TikTokers, and I do use tarot, and they'll hold up, like, for just as an example, the Three of Swords, which is probably one of the worst cards that you can get in the deck, and they'll be like, he loves you so much, and you're like, you're just twitching, you know what I mean? And you're like,
I do.
okay. But the thing is that these are people that people are taking advice from.
Yeah, I know, it's sad, isn't it?
It is. And it's sort of like, for me, and I've said this before, when you're looking, okay, when I look into my life and when I sit and I reminisce on my life, I love my life. I've got a great fucking life. Like, I have nothing to complain about, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, like I'm pretty damn happy.
Good.
And but I've seen people seek out and go to readers who are struggling financially, who are like in the pits of like the most just horrible affairs and relationships and circling the drain as far as like their love life and their friends they hate, and they're just miserable fucking toxic people. And they're like, but my reader says this, and I'm like, oh, you know what, you just keep you just keep going there.
Oh my God.
You just go there. You know what I mean? And
I do.
And you probably know readers like that too.
I do.
Yeah.
I know readers.
I know that. I know you do, because
they have the book. They read the tarot and they have the book next to them, and they literally go, "Oh well, just a minute."
Yeah, but pay me a ton of money to do this, right? And you're just like, wow, okay, yeah. And there's like, honestly, there's nothing you can do. You just got to sit there and go, whatever, okay, you know what I mean? Like, they're gonna be guided, you know what I mean? And then I have amazing clients that say to me, look, at you know what, your name popped up, or I heard about you, or I've seen you, and I feel like I needed to go to you because you were calling me. Like, there was something about spirit calling me to you. And these are clients that I've, whether they're new or I've had them for years, you know what I mean? They have faith and they have trust in me, and they, you know what I mean? And it's wonderful. But I do feel like everybody does have the ability, but it's how you go about working on your ability
Yes. Agreed.
that
Agreed.
is going to make a difference, right?
Good answer, though. Good answer. Okay. Next.
Okay. Oh, I'm debating against two of them.
I know there's some good ones.
Okay, I'm gonna go with we're gonna go with a more paranormal one, I think.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Do you believe in trapped spirits?
Ooh, trapped spirits. That's a good question. Do you know, I'm going to actually say that I do believe that spirits can be trapped, but I don't know if I believe that they are trapped by someone else and unable to leave, or if they trap themselves in that particular environment. For example, there are some spirits that refuse to move on and that trap themselves in a certain environment or a certain situation because of certain barriers to leaving. Like they might have possessions that they don't want to give up, or they might be really worried about somebody and their welfare or their family, and they don't want to leave because they're just so worried and preoccupied with the things of this world, so that they almost sabotage themselves and get stuck. But I have heard that there are some that can be trapped because other spirits, other entities are keeping them trapped. I haven't really encountered that in my practice, but you know, I'm still kind of learning about that. It could be a possibility. I don't know, but I do think that you can keep yourself trapped. You know, by your own mind, by your own you know, volition. How do you feel about that?
So I agree with what you just said in regards to being trapped by your own mind, or we have to also remember too, is that timelines in the spirit world and the human world are, we don't know.
No,
I mean,
no.
you know, right? Like, you know, we really don't know what the timeline of that is. Where is the spirit world compared to our world, right?
Yes.
And so when we hear about these people that are trapped in like buildings or you know, hospitals, like especially like tuberculosis, I don't believe that shit. I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I feel like I don't think that people here, the thing that really pisses me off, and I know that I'm gonna get shot on for this, and I whatever, I don't care.
All right, go for it.
I had to go in and help them escape or help release. Fuck off. I'm sorry. Just fuck off.
Yeah.
I think that it's the biggest bullshit that I've ever heard in my life. Like, I'm sorry, but it is. I really do. I feel like it is the biggest load of crap that I've ever heard. You've been doing this for 40 some years.
44. Yeah.
And, you know, like you said, you haven't encountered any of this nonsense. Why would it suddenly, these people that are walking around finding these trapped entities that they have to cleanse and do a fucking oogie boogie dance and you know what I mean, shake trolls at them and whatever. Fuck off. Just fuck off. Seriously. Like, enough is enough. You know, I seriously, I do not believe in that. I'm sorry for swearing. I truly am, but it is probably one of my biggest peeves.
Right.
I do not believe in it. I do not. I do feel like you said that people can get trapped in their mind, and I do feel that if you bring in maybe perhaps a really good medium, that they can talk to them and say, look at, you know what I mean? Like, look around, what are you seeing? Blah, blah, blah. Brenda, I love her. She's like, I'm funny. Thank you. Thank you for not getting offended, you know, by my swearing. I appreciate it. But no, you know, I feel like there's other ways, but this nonsense of doing some ritual and, like I said, some, shaking a troll at them and all of this other crap, and we charging like thousands of fucking dollars and whatever.
I know. I know.
I have no patience and no tolerance for that crap. And I will be the first that will say it, like, to somebody right off the bat, because I've never encountered this in all of the readings that I've done. And if you look at what that's like 60 some fucking years of doing paranormal, and then if we add in Trevor, who's going to probably say the exact same thing, we can't speak for Trevor because he's not here, but like that's a lot of paranormal. So how is somebody walking around going, I gotta go release everybody, oh my god, I gotta make a living out of releasing? Well, I haven't encountered a trapped spirit, and if you haven't encountered a trapped spirit, I think that says a lot. So where are you finding all of these fucking trapped spirits from?
Well, you want to hear a funny story? I'll tell you a funny story. This
Okay.
is a good funny story. So when I was in Montreal, I used to know this really lovely, lovely lady who was a psychic medium. And we're going back like a lot of years, right? I was about 19 or 20. And she made me laugh because we were talking about trapped spirits. And this is way before, the movie Ghost and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
She was funny. And she said that she had gone with somebody to this house and they were having experiences. And so she said, I connected with the spirit that was there at the time. And she had been a previous owner and this spirit. And the spirit basically said to her, after she asked the spirit, like, are you trapped? Do you want to leave? The spirit, who was very Italian, said to her, basically, pardon me if you're Italian, Fangul, I don't want to leave. You leave me alone. You leave the house. I'm here and I don't want to go, so go away. And she said, I'm sorry, but am I going to argue with an Italian grandmother in spirit? No, she wanted to stay. She wasn't really bothering anybody. They could sense her presence there. But I mean, she wasn't pulling hair. She wasn't tripping people. She wasn't scratching people. She was, very involved in the family that lived there. But she basically said, listen, if I want to go, I'm going to go. But you're not going to tell me that I'm going to go. And I thought that was the funniest thing. And I truly believe that. I do
too. I really, really do. And, I just feel like, I think it's just it's another one of those nonsense legends that people like to create, and whether they're doing it for attention or for money or whatever kind of crap that they've invented it, even the people that are in these hospitals, they have the ability to take a step away. We have to talk about timelines, because we don't know what timeline they're on within themselves.
No, that's true.
And that, I think, makes a big difference, right? Like, to them, it could have been just yesterday that they passed away. Maybe they're just resolving, the fact that, look at, I didn't get to live out my full life.
True. I mean, I do think, though, that a psychic medium who goes into a certain situation, who then is able to, talk with the spirit that's there. If the spirit that's there says, listen, I might need some help because I don't quite know how to do this, that's different.
Absolutely. That's 100%. I truly believe. But when we see these movies or these people that are like, oh, they're in there and they're trapped and they're scared and they're crying and they're screaming and blah. Oh, come on. Come on. Seriously? Come on. Like, just whatever. Like, did you get your 15 minutes today? Like, what? Like, what do you need?
Yeah, I know.
Like,
very
come on.
Dramatic,
Yeah, like, but you're right. Like, if somebody said, look, I need some help.
Yes.
Absolutely. But that's a whole different level.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that one. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, there was a situation a long time ago where I was doing an investigation, and it was in a place called Mount Albert. And this woman was having some issues with an entity that was in the house that was physically assaulting her, which is never good. But when the psychic medium
I
that,
remember this one.
yeah, we were working with, um, that was interesting because when he asked, "Why are you here?" the entity said, "Well, I can't leave because my friends are across the street in the graveyard, and this particular gentleman is telling them that they can't leave the graveyard. And I don't really want to leave either because I feel badly for them." That was a really weird thing. So that was the only time that I ever encountered another spirit keeping others kind of here and not
And they
allowing.
probably weren't really keeping them, but it's like with any abuse situation,
Yes,
it's the words that affect us more than the actual physical presence.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we get scared, and which is 100% valid,
Yes.
and
Yes.
or sometimes the physical presence might be there, in abuse situations, but again, it's there is going to be a trapping of the mind. But that goes back to what you were saying before, probably a lot of trapping of the mind.
Exactly. I mean, who was it that said we are our own worst enemy, right?
Even when we've passed over, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you are in death what you were in life, and I truly
Yeah.
believe that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But that was a good question.
I think we have time for one more. Your turn.
Oh, okay. So, let's see. All right. Oh, here we go. That's a good one. What's the best way to communicate with a spirit, and is there a best way?
Okay. You go with this one. You start.
Well, I don't know if there's a best way to communicate with a spirit because there's so many different ways to communicate with spirit. So, you can sort of, in a sense, open yourself up to them to receive messages from them, but you have to be very, very careful with that because you've got to protect yourself from perhaps other spirits around you that are not so nice. But to communicate with spirit, if you are uncomfortable doing that, it's always good to reach out with other people who are, and they can communicate via, EVP. They can use a device, a spirit box, perhaps. They can also, on their team, for example, we have a clairvoyant who's able to communicate with spirits, so that can help. But personally, if you want to communicate with spirit, I say that you protect yourself, number one. So surround yourself with white light. Only invite in the good and the ones of the light. And if you are open to connecting, then usually, they'll connect with whatever way they wish to connect with you. They can connect through dreams. They can connect through so many other ways. But again, there's no right way, like one way, best way to connect with spirit. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that there's any one way. I think it's gonna. I mean, I really feel like you have to go with your comfort level first of
Yeah,
all, because if
sure.
you're not comfortable doing it a particular way, like for instance, I don't like Ouija boards. That's just me.
Right.
So I wouldn't communicate using one. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop anybody else from doing it, but for me personally, which is funny because I make them. but I also infuse like more, positive energy into it, right? But me personally, I don't use them. I make them, I put them aside and sell them.
Yeah.
Like that. That's where I go with that. But they are, more infused with like a really positive, energy, right? As well. But saying that, I completely agree. I mean, some people are going to be, more comfortable with EVPs. Some people are going to be using, spirit box or even rods, can be a way to communicate with them. I will give one tip though, and this is not for spirit particularly, like, Aunt Betsy or anything like that. But a lot of people ask me, how do I communicate with my guides? Or how do I get the messages that I need to hear?
Right.
So when we ask a question of spirit, listen. All we have to do is listen, and it's usually 99% of the time it's the first answer that comes through. The problem is that we don't want to hear that.
That's true.
Right? Like,
Because
just
we
as an
close the
example,
door, right?
if we ask, I mean, like we were talking about before, 90% of my readings are love readings, right?
Right.
Romance and relationship. And so ask yourself, whatever the question is, will me and whoever be in a relationship, or does he love me? Does he really care about me?
Right.
What's the response coming? What are you hearing immediately? Boom. That's your answer.
Yeah.
Now you can always use an intuitive or a psychic to decipher that more, obviously. But, and maybe get into the more of the intricacies of it and all of that. But the problem is that we don't want to hear it.
True.
We don't want to hear the answer, because the answer might not be what preconceived idea that we have in our head, or in regards to relationships, or really with really anything. We invest time, and the minute that we start investing time in something, we start looking at it and going, well, I can't walk away because I've invested a month, a week, a year, 10 years, 5 years pining over somebody, blah blah. That's not. And so we measure it in time, and we go, so we'll ask the question, and the answer will be like, no. you know
Right.
or, does he care about me? And the answer comes in as, they've already shown you that they don't.
Right.
Right. Which
Right.
would be more of an answer from spirit, or spirit might just say, you already know the answer to this.
Yes.
and
Well,
maybe not be completely clear, but they're also, spirits also allowing you to look and really look at the situation.
right. And they've given you signs. And that's the thing too that a lot of people don't understand. I mean, if you look at the question, right? Like, what's the best way to communicate with spirit? If you take the word spirit, let's say, and if you're more religious and you put God in there,
Absolutely.
so what's the best way to communicate with God? Well, through prayer, right? Meditation, quiet,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And again, there are so many signs that spirit will give you. And sometimes that's the best way to communicate with spirit.
It's funny. There's a tarot card called the Tower, and whenever I get this tarot card, and but I sometimes I like to explain it to my clients like this. Look at, when the Tower comes in the tarot, basically what it is, and not every tarot reader is going to interpret it like that, and I don't care. This is my interpretation from using, from years of working with the tarot, and my interpretation of it. But
Right.
when I get the tarot card, for me, this is like what you just said. Spirit has given you sign after sign after sign after sign after sign, and you keep ignoring it.
Yeah.
And so the Tower basically brings things back down to a foundation. So everything is going to fucking crumble.
Yes.
Right. And so if we look at it in the sense of relationships, or let's say a career, let's say in a relationship, you're like, does this person care about me? Meanwhile, they've been sleeping with everybody here, there, and everywhere, and doing this and doing that and disrespecting you and all of that stuff. And you're like, you're insisting, oh no, we're going to get together. He's going to be the love of my life. But yet the tower comes through and then boom, that's where somebody walks in on somebody while they're in the middle of like the sex act.
Right.
Or that is, where this guy marries somebody out of the blue. Or this is where you find out that they have been with this person, that person, this person, that person. Boom. And that should be your sign, walk away. That's because spirit has given you all of these signs, but what spirit will do is bring it right down to the foundation.
Yes.
And if it has to go down to the foundation where you got to rebuild, that's usually not going to be the most pleasant energy, right?
No.
Same with careers. And a lot of people will say, well, I hate my job, but maybe I'll look around. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe. Meanwhile, they're suffering in their job or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, one day they get fired or laid off, or the company quits or closes or whatever. Boom, where are you? You're back down to that foundation. Because spirit's been giving you the signs. You might have already seen, you might have seen on TV that the stock is going down, or you're going to see other people were getting fired or laid off, but you're like, no, it's not going to be me, or maybe you saw a manager treat somebody like crap and you're like, no, it's not going to be me, or that I'm just going to ignore that situation. Whatever it is, you've seen the signs of it, and you've been given, like you said, those signs from God.
That's exactly right.
And you chose to ignore it.
Yep.
And so, same with relationships. You couldn't get a hold of the guy for 3 days, and then they claim, oh, I forgot to plug in my phone. Like all of these. Okay.
Yep.
Right? But we hear these excuses all the time. People hear these excuses all the time. They don't listen.
Nope.
And so if we stop and start listening to ourselves and go, is this the right situation for me?
Right. So in other words, the best way to communicate with spirit is to actually listen to yourself.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely. Like I said, you can use a psychic, you can use a medium, you can use a spirit box, to get deeper details if you so wish to do so, right? Or maybe you just need validation.
Right.
And that's fine. But, listen to yourself first. That's 100% why we're not one-dimensional animals.
No, we're not. People don't
realize. We have to remember that, right? Like we really, we could be 10th dimension if we allow ourselves to go there.
Yeah, that's very true. And we're not going to know until we're not here anymore.
Just to close it out, I'm going to recommend something to people if they haven't already read it. You have to kind of you have to remember that it was written probably like the late 70s or something like that. So it's not like the most compelling book, I guess, but it's got some really, really good theories in there, and it's got some really good explanations on how energy works. And it's called The Celestine Prophecies.
Oh yeah, I remember that book.
I highly recommend that book because when you read it, you do vibrate on a higher level. Like I said, I mean, the storyline itself, I've heard from some people, I couldn't get through it because it was boring. But at the same time, it's not about the storyline particularly. It's about, the energies that are within the book and how it explains how we, I think there's also a movie too, but I think the movie was actually pretty It was kind of worse than the book. I don't know if I'd recommend it.
I do remember the book. I really do. And I may have read it back then. I can't remember.
I do. I highly recommend it for people
Okay.
because it really helps look into yourself. And it really explains how our energy is affecting not only us, but those around us.
Right. Cool. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kathy.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, guys, have a great week. We will see you next time. And big hugs, Lynda. We'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.